Welcome, everybody. We're so thrilled to have you here. Today, we're not just talking about fixing the pain points of service lanes, we're also talking about reimaging the entire customer experience through AI. Now, listen, customer expectations have shifted, y'all. They want clarity, speed, and trust. And that means rethinking the experience from ground up and not just layering new tech on top of old processes. So today I'm excited to welcome Michael Seeman, Regional VP of Solutions at Tekion, and two powerhouse leaders from BMW of San Antonio and Mini with the Principal Automotive Group, who are leaning into AI as a strategic lever to transform service across their organization. So please welcome Ryan Sessums, Chief Operating Officer, and Aaron Calvert, Fixed Operations Director.
Thank you for having us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Michelle, for having us. What excites me is that AI is no longer about theory, it's about impact. At Tekion, we focus on these areas when building AI. First is data quality and security. I think we all would agree that that's pretty important. Second is maximizing customer value. Third is increasing sales per employee. And finally, how do we help increase operational efficiencies with end-to-end workflow automation? And all of that adds up to one thing: creating an experience customers want to return to each and every time they have a need for their dealerships.
Okay, Michael. All right, all right, all right. Well, listen, most service models are still reactive. Something breaks, the customer shows up, and then the clock starts ticking, y'all. But AI lets us flip that, right? It's predicting needs, it's personalizing communication, it's cutting the friction out of experience. So, with that, Michael, how are you seeing groups use AI to move from reactive firefighting to proactive service?
It's a great question. So the biggest thing is a rinse and repeat philosophy. If you think about it today, especially in the service department, service lane, and Aaron could probably tell you this, the advisor is swamped with so much responsibility, making phone calls, taking phone calls, addressing issues here or there, working with technicians. So how do we help automate a lot of these workflows? And that's where I see dealerships and dealer groups looking to leverage AI, is to help with some of the work that can be automated that can help dealerships focus on revenue generating opportunities. So that's where I'm seeing AI maximize opportunities for our dealer partners today.
Okay, that's interesting. And with that, Ryan, with what Michael said, how are you designing your processes to catch issues before they disrupt your customer experience?
I just want to back up the story just a little bit in terms of BMW and Mini of San Antonio. We were in Principal Auto in November of 24 from AutoNation, and I came from overseeing our non-franchise businesses, which included the AutoNation USA stores, where acquiring vehicles direct from consumer was absolutely a requirement for any sort of profitability. And the first thing I looked at when I joined the group is how can we expand our capabilities in terms of direct from consumer acquisition. And of course, in a franchise model, such as a BMW store, Volvo store, Mini store, you have service drive traffic. That's a huge opportunity. Aaron is overseeing a store or a fixed operations department that's seeing 150, 160 ROs a day in a luxury environment where the consumer requires the next level of service in terms of how they're treated across the drive and throughout that service experience. So we actually convened an AI focused work group within the auto group. And one of the first things that came up was vehicle acquisition. We developed an in-house proprietary system to engage with every customer. So as an RO opens, we're engaging them with a text message, offering them the valuation of their vehicle while they're in for service. That's been pretty successful for us, and we've really moved the needle on direct from consumer acquisition through that channel, and increased our consumer loyalty on the sales side with that tact. Now, what that then led to is how can we use AI to advance that process, expedite it for the consumer and for us, and as I did some research online, I came across UVeye. Of course, looked into some of the case studies with General Motors that were out there on UVeye and some of the other dealer experiences, and your teams sent us to some local dealers as well to experience the product. I liked that it captured full 360 imagery of the vehicle, so that when we're appraising cars as they come to the drive and get that valuation offer, we have a visual of the car immediately. And then, of course, we have our MPI from the technician team in service shortly thereafter. So we can deliver a really precise valuation to that consumer that they can trust. And it's completely legitimate in terms of what we're offering them, and we mean it. Like, we're going to buy your car for that amount of money today. So that's kind of what led us down the pipeline of going after UVI from a service perspective. And I'll let Aaron probably expand more on it, but the transparency for the consumer, right, when they enter, and then it just expedites the process across the drive, which is, to me, maybe the biggest lift of the UVI system. And I'll let Aaron talk more about that, but it's made a real impact for us here in the first 60 days.
Aaron, don't be scared.
Okay, I didn't know if I was going to get a question or I just was going to follow
No,
up on that.
I have a lot of questions for you.
So,
You
I
can.
mean, I'll say that in the interest of AI, I mean, I think Michael hit the nail on the head. I mean, and this isn't just because I started my career as an ASM, but I think they've got the hardest job in the dealership. We're seeing the guests more times than the sales through the sales process. And I grew up with the saying, sales sells the first car, service sells the rest. So if we're not giving them an extraordinary experience when they come in and following the process to make sure it's a seamless experience each and every time, we're failing our organization, because they're not going to want to come back and buy their next car from our organization. So AI, in my opinion, we have to get on board, because we need AI to be a personal assistant to the ASMs. Because not only do they have a hard job 25 years ago, 26 years ago when I started in this business, but now we've through all of these performance groups and 20 groups have said, well, no, we need to do active delivery. Let's get rid of the cashiers. The ASMs need to cashier their own guests. And oh, well, transportation, let's get the ASMs to check out the guests in the loaner car. So we're just layering on more and more responsibility to an already tedious job, calling all the VSCs and everything of that nature. So, piggybacking on what Ryan said, the efficiency of the check-in, which UVI has allowed us to speed up our check-in process without having to take 25, 30 photos of the exterior of the car or do a video walk around, is allowed us to make them more efficient and add one of those assistants into the process. It's protecting our guests, allowing us to make sure that we're getting their vehicles back to them in as good or better condition than when they drop off the vehicle, making sure that they're aware of needs that might not be known to them as they're pulling in the service drive, whether it's an object in the tire or a curb rash and they've got a wheel protection plan, or just anything from the scans under the vehicle and getting that full 360 view. How many times do you get that right off the bat of, hey, there could be a fluid leak, or oh, there's damage to the skid plate or something of that nature? It's just allowed us to have a whole lot more flexibility in our presentation right off the get-go with our guests, and making sure that the transparency that's necessary to build that level of trust is there from the start. So again, we're 60 days in, or maybe not even full 60 days. I think we started late July, but the numbers that we've seen on our key performance indicators, just on the low hanging fruit, have been tremendous. And it's, again, allowed us to process those 130 cars much more efficiently across our drive.
You also think about that, Aaron, too. So you're building trust and transparency. It's a rinse and repeat with that customer when they first come into the drive. Then think about it when the car gets back into the shop. It's up on the lift. The technician's looking at it. You're doing your NPVI. You're taking your videos. You're being able to then send the customer the videos of what potentially could be wrong, right? Additional service requests. You already have that credibility, because the customer says, okay, you see my car now. I see what it looks like. Oh, by the way, you sent me something else that indicates other potential issues with the car. I just think that's where we're seeing, and I think you guys as well, that trust that you can bring with customers to build that credibility going forward, that they want to continue to partner with you.
And I think that started with the advent of the video MPI. I mean, seeing is believing. And, I can tell you that my master technician said, oh, you've got a oil filter housing gasket leak, or you've got this other issue. Your brakes are down below 3 millimeters of life left, and we really need to get those taken care of. But actually seeing it on the video and seeing your brake measurements, or seeing the fluid actually leaking from that component that we're talking about, has increased sales. So now layering in the UVeye portion on the exterior of the vehicle, and getting those tire tread depths right off the bat, and hopefully capturing any punctures or anything of that nature in the tires, it just allows us to be, I think, more nimble in terms of getting that information out there. You're not having to wait for a guest to get there, even if you're not doing the hard sell right up front on whatever those needs are. Hey, we see that these tires measuring in the red or the yellow based off of the tread depth, and we're going to make sure that the techs spend extra amount of time and care making sure that these are checked out, and you probably need to prep for this need and making that just soft sell up front, and then you get the transition of trust going to that technician in the back, which helps basically enhance the trust that the guest is getting, because they're now seeing it multiple times.
No,
So I think it's a good segue. It's a good segue into the next section about the advisor, and
yeah,
so
yeah. So it's, AI isn't about, just changing their workflows, right? You just said it. It's reshaping what it means to be an advisor. They're becoming true consultants, guides, right? Not just task completers and ticket writers. Um, so are y'all as an organization rethinking the advisor role as you lean deeper into AI?
So that's a great question. I've never really looked at our advisors or consultants as just an order taker or advisor or consultant. We call them assistant service managers because that's how we expect them to perform in terms of being able to take the guest's needs from start to finish, whether that is in a consulting role or solving a problem or anything of that nature. But it is constantly evolving. Like I said earlier, we're layering in more responsibility on them, almost each and every day, and that we're going to have to continue to evolve that role. It's with the advent of AI, is it going to change? I don't know. Is it a necessity to have them there? I think they're always going to have that human element, that human touch is going to have to be there, because AI, as good as it is, really is, it can't predict the empathy and this, and the needs of the guest 100%. So the ASM needs to be that extra touch point that allows the experience to go from cookie cutter and AI driven to exceptional. But yeah, we are constantly evolving our process to better enhance both the systems and processes that we have, but also the guest experience.
Yeah, I would add on to that. I mean, I think the use of AI for us is about how do we amplify each of our associates' capabilities in whatever role they're in, whether that's in service, sales, and anywhere in the operation, right? Because labor shortages are a real thing. It's tough to get good people. It's tough to retain good people. So if we can amplify their throughput in a customer centric way, so that's like the important thing, that it's customer centric. In everything we do, we have to keep the customer first and the customer at the center and the core of the issue. We have things we want to move in terms of KPIs and sales metrics, but if the customer doesn't see it that way in terms of it's an improvement in their experience, it's ultimately going to fail. So we're trying to assess it from both aspects, right? How do we amplify our associates' capabilities? How do we keep it customer centric and ensure that it's improving their experience? And then how do we achieve our KPIs and move those margin impacting aspects of it?
and I think that's a fine line you just said, because it is a people business, right? I've been doing this for 27 years. We are in a people business, and how do we make sure that AI doesn't does its job, create the efficiencies that we need, but not interrupt the fact that we still need to engage with people, right? Because you want to build the trust and transparency with your customers, so they want to keep coming back and referring their friends to your organization as well.
Yeah, I kind of talked to it too in our store currently. Like when I first came there, it's a busy store, right? 150, 160 euros a day. And folks like to come in the morning, and you'd have the service lane with a little bit of a backup. And UVeyes helped us to have more of I call it the Chick-fil-A effect, right? You drive up, even if you see a line, you just know it's going to move so quickly from your experience that you have no hesitation to get in line because you're going to be helped quickly versus, oh, I don't know, the last time I was here, this took 45 minutes. Maybe I'll come back later, and you go on to work or whatever else. And maybe you end up at an independent because of that. So we want to take away that constraint and roadblock to the customer's mental approach to our dealership and understand that we're keeping them customer centric, and we're going to try to get them through as quickly and expeditiously as possible while taking care of all their concerns in a really transparent manner.
I love that. Chick-fil-A. With that methodology, has it changed how your customers perceive your team's expertise or professionalism?
I think it's a little early to tell. I will say that it's spurred a lot of conversations that, what is this new machine that we're going through and what's going on? And those conversations allow us to explain that we are working to enhance their experience and the transparency in which the process on the service drive is enacted. And so I think ultimately you're hitting the nail on the head. It's going to allow us to be the expert, even if we're not, in terms of all the information that we have at our fingertips. And so, it's always the adage, fake it till you become it. And so as we recruit people into the industry and get them out there, it'll allow them to speak more confidently. And even if they're not, 100%, that level of experience that somebody that's been here for 15, 20 years has. And so it's going to allow a lot more confidence in the presentation ultimately for our newer associates.
I would agree. If I see a picture and it looks dirty, I want it cleaned. Third party validator, right?
Absolutely.
And so basically, we're almost done, so you guys can get a little bit more comfortable.
We not look comfortable?
No, good. Okay. Some people, no, you're good. So let's unlock some real life stories here, right? When was the moment or the aha moment that you said, aside from revenue, right? But you said, holy smack, this, I was about to curse. This was the best decision. There had to be a moment of impact, an inflection point that you, and it's only been 60 days, but overall, just what was that moment?
So, I mean, Aaron will probably have maybe a different perspective than I would, being on the front lines there with the ASMs on the drive. But from my perspective, it was the differentiation that this offered us as a tool. We're the first auto dealer in the San Antonio, city of San Antonio to have this technology. And I think having that experience for our BMW customers is super important. The transparency, the expediting of them through the drive, just the technology that they're being exposed to and provided at zero cost to them, right? We're making an investment with UVeye to deliver this to our customers. It's on a subscription basis. So with any large technological investment, I like that from the perspective that I'm not buying this for 30 years. We're subscribing for 3, and the expectation is that we will work with UVeye to continue to advance the capabilities of the system so that it does become a 30-year relationship, right? And we continue to improve it for our customers, for our internal processes, for our KPI improvements. But if it doesn't work as expected over 3 years, we have a way to pivot. So I liked that aspect of it from an investment standpoint. But I just think the optics from the customer standpoint are all positive. It's all in how we present it, of course, and how the ASMs articulate that to the guest, which is Aaron's wheelhouse. But that's kind of where I come from.
Ryan, I do have a question for you, though. We're talking about AI in general. You mentioned earlier about vehicle acquisition in the lane. As a COO of the organization, where from a Tekion and also from a UVeye perspective, we would love to hear, where do you think specifically some use cases where AI could really help your organization, if you've thought about that? Because as we continue to evolve and become we're at Tekion, we're transforming to be a vertical AI company. to have the AI built inside our Tekion platform. So I'd love to hear, and even Aaron, as you as well, what are some areas in AI specifically you'd like to see as you continue to evolve your business?
Yeah, we're super hungry for AI in a couple of key areas on acquisition. Our team internally, we have a small IT group, but they're very adventuresome and willing to try new things. And we're working on an AI appraisal tool right now. So again, we have a vehicle acquisition specialist that fields these appraise it leads that come off the service drive engagement.
Mm-hmm.
They manually appraise the car based on the images and the MPI, using vAuto. We want to find a way to have AI expedite and amplify their effectiveness. Right now, we kind of make it a hand raiser situation on the drive. Would you like your car appraised or not? And we're getting a response rate 20 to 25%. But what if we just gave everybody an appraisal? It'd be hard for a human being to go conduct that manually on that kind of volume. But if we can get the AI to be precise enough, it doesn't have to be perfect, then we can deliver that experience and that valuation to every customer. Kind of a drip, drip, drip Carvana theory, if you will, right? If we touch everybody and continue to put that in front of them, they'll be more apt to engage with us at the time of their choosing, right? So again, allow it to be customer centric, let them choose, just provide them the information. And if we can use AI to bring that to life, those are the pathways that we're headed down.
From my perspective, I mean, there's a lot of touch points on AI, but it's mainly from the retention aspect. I think is the biggest area of opportunity in fixed ops is how do you get that predictive model. Now we're in a fortunate situation with BMW and Mini, especially with they have condition-based services. So they're basically, their cars are telling us ahead of the time that when they need to be coming in. So how do we feed that data into an AI software that then can communicate with those guests in an effective manner where it doesn't come off as AI? We used an AI phone system or phone answering system, an AI BDC for lack of a better word. And it was good, but you could tell it was AI when you're on the call with them. So we pivoted away from that until we could get a system that would actually help alleviate some of that calls coming in so we could generate some outside business in our BDC. But, predictive services, follow up, again, make them the assistant to the ASM. We know that an NPS survey from the manufacturer is going out 5 days from the time the RO is closed. How do we not have to set a scheduled reminder in one of our other systems where AI just takes that over and sends out either the text message, the email, or makes the phone call, just to stay in that constant communication? How do we have that assistant available to help the ASMs on the front end? AI in the shop, I think that can evolve from the standpoint of, and we're getting there with and I don't even know if it's 100% AI, but the Oculus type of glasses that kind of walk, you through the repair and what you're doing. And, they see what you're looking at and can predict what the issues are. And so it's kind of tech training in the midst of on the job training. And so those types of things that will keep us effective, efficient, and making sure that we're getting cars fixed right the first time. So that, again, we continue to sell those cars for the front end of the store and keeping those guests happy, I think is all, coming down the road, and we have to be ready to accept and get those systems in our organization as quickly as we can.
Yeah,
Aaron,
just
I wrote that down, Aaron, as a note, as a takeaway, an AI assistant for the ASM. Love
Yeah.
that.
I was just going to add that the other use case for AI for us is the speed to market of a car that runs through the UVeye system at time of appraisal. And I know the team's working on being able to take those and make them merchandised, cleaned up, recon ready day one. So, we get digital retail ready day one. We can cut 4 or 5 days off our speed to market, which is incredibly important for us.
Yeah.
The other thing we're working on AI internally, and a Tekion perspective, if you could help us with this, that'd be fantastic. Is can we use AI to monitor our text and phone calls to determine customer sentiment? So if they detect a stress point or a rub with a customer, that gets route it to a supervisor or to Aaron to directly engage with those customers that may be the highest priority for us to engage with. And then secondary, we just also added on Aaron's team mobile service. So we made a large investment there. We've got one vehicle. We plan to expand that over time. We're piloting it, but to the extent that Tekion could assist us utilizing AI to schedule appointments relative repair maintenance items, recalls, and such that are high probability of being conducted from a mobile standpoint, that the consumer would prefer that, to help us direct that with AI would be extremely useful. Maximize the throughput for true repairs in the shop, and then move those lighter touch items that can be done mobily again to wow the consumer onto the mobile platform. That would be very useful.
All right. Good feedback. We appreciate that.
This is great feedback. I'm all about dealer feedback. I love it. I guess with all the feedback and AI is just everywhere, personally, professionally. Um, Based off y'all's journey, how do you explain to another dealer or another group considering AI overall? What would you tell them to focus on first?
I would obviously tell them to focus on the items that a human isn't needed for, right? So the really time consuming tasks that are repetitive and that AI can be trained to do at a high level. Start there. Focus on amplifying your existing associates' throughput by giving them tools to make them that much more valuable to the organization and to the consumer's experience. And don't get behind, right? You don't want to be on the leading edge. You want to be the first adopter, but you damn sure better not be the last. You better be in the process. You better be constantly researching, investigating, and hey, you got to take some risk. I mean, putting UVeye in these two BMW stores, it wasn't without risk. But if you're not afraid, you're going to find a way forward that's going to be, just superior to your competitors.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think Ryan is 100% correct. You got to prioritize, and you can do your quadrants of high revenue, low value, high value tasks, and put them in there.
Yeah.
If it's low value, low revenue, just those are the ones that get what AI solutions are out there to focus on those, because you don't need your human capital spending any time on those. It's not going to push the needle forward for your guest or for the organization as a whole. And then, failure is a given. Getting up is what's going to keep you going. So try things, fail fast. If something doesn't work out, make a pivot, transition off of it. But you've got to be willing to get on board, because AI is not going anywhere, and we need to know how to utilize that artificial intelligence to enhance our processes, not be fearful of it taking our job. It's almost like not hiring somebody that's super qualified to work underneath you because you're worried they're going to take your job. I want the most qualified people in the world working underneath me, because I want them elevating me to the next level. And that's how you have to look at AI.
100%.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, we don't. I mean, we don't believe that AI is going to replace people, but people who use AI could replace people who don't. So that's something we have to really think about.
Yeah, I think, it's giving people time back to be human again, right?
Right.
And that's what builds loyalty.
100%. You get caught up in the busyness of business and you forget to have that relationship, and it all becomes transactional. If you get that time back, then it's all about a relationship business, and it goes away from that transactional experience.
Facts all day. Um, End of day, y'all have been amazing. We basically, acknowledge it starts with clean data, clear communication, and a commitment to using AI responsibly, and for the customers, not just the bottom line. If you're ready to explore what this could look like in your stores, we would all love to connect. I just want to say thank you again to everyone, especially Ryan and Aaron, for showing what it looks like when you stop trying to fix the old model and start building a new one. Thanks, y'all, for your time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us.
Thank you, guys.